G'day team, welcome to Martial Arts Business Success. We're here with the one and only Dave Kovar. My name's Phil Britton and
I'm Graham McDonald.
And today we're going to be talking about how to build a world-class team. And let me tell you, look, we've had a chance to train and be around Dave's team, and look, they are world-class. And, you know, a reflection of someone's business is, you know, the students that they have, and a reflection of the students is the instructors. And I think it all sort of begins and ends with the training of your staff and instructors. So hiring, firing, growing, training. I mean, we could be here for days, but within 12 minutes, we're going to give you the best that we got on how you can build your team, whether you are a one-man band or you've got 3, 4, 5 people in your team. So, Graham, what have you got?
Where do we start? I guess, this is the hard part. Like, some of the guys watching this or even listening may not have team just yet. They may not necessarily have an instructor pro, a leadership pro. Where do you start? If you were to be a one-man band or even a school that doesn't have a program in place already,
right?
What are the right steps to take?
So, first and foremost, you guys have been too, but I've been the one-man guy. I was the head everything for 9 years. I did everything, all my own cleaning, all my own enrollment, and I was really bad at it, by the way, and all the teaching. So I've been there, and one of the mentalities that I had early on was the old phrase that was in my head is that if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. You guys have heard that?
Yeah.
And that's really dangerous and limiting because there's some really good people out there, right? So I think when it comes to like building a team, wherever you are, there's 3 steps, and they're simple, but they're not easy. And I'll kind of talk about each one a little bit.
Yeah, please.
Hire the right person, train him right, and then treat him right. Really, if you can do those things, you're gold, right? Now, but there goes, so hire the right person. That's the starting point. And what I see in our industry, and I'm sure you guys have seen it as well, is people are too caught up in how to cover class tonight. Oh, I need someone right now, desperately right now. So they're looking out in their advanced class to find someone to cover class, and there's not a lot you can do about that, but there's a lot you can prepare for 2 years from tonight, and that's going to be coming for sure.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing is to think long term. So you got to look at this. There's some things you can do in the short term to figure out your problem now, but regardless, right now you're planting seeds. So we plant seeds early and often, okay? And that they're going to sprout later on. So for example, I might, if you're in class and it's your second class, and I take a look at you and I go, man, this guy I think he has the right vibe, right? I'm going to walk up and say, hey, Graham, man, I just want to say I really enjoy having you as a student. Have you ever thought about teaching martial arts for a living?
Geez, no, not at all.
Hey, man, you only had 2 classes, right? But you have the right energy. I think you'd make a great one. So I want you to look at this as not just a hobby, but I look at it as a possible, like night school, like a possible career option. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for you to be really consistent in attendance, try hard, and just kind of help out and be alert, and then we'll talk in the future.
I appreciate it.
Okay, so that's it. I've given that talk I don't know how many times. Now, what's going to happen? You plant 10, one's going to bloom. But here's the cool thing. The worst thing that happens is you're a better student because of the conversation.
Yeah.
There is zero downside to doing it. So that's, so it's never too soon to have that conversation. You had that conversation for the first time, and you had that, or for me, in my case, my instructor, I'll never forget it. I was a blue belt. I was 14 years old, and we had this private lesson system. It was Saturday afternoon. I was kicking back in the lobby, and I hear him saying, "You can't make it," and he hangs up the phone. He looks around the room, and I already can read his mind. One of the instructors couldn't cover his private lessons, and he's looking around the room for someone to cover his lessons. And I see him, and I see him look at me, and I can read his mind. He's saying, "Dave, no, he's too young, not him." And moves around, he realizes there's no one else to go to. So he looks over, he takes a breath, he goes, "Hey, Kovar, any chance I want you to cover a class, right? A private lesson."
Yeah.
So my first class was with like 35-year-old, just giant of a guy. So come on back here, let me show you how to kick some. But something, and I did everything wrong, but something like gelled for me. That was it, right? So making sure that you create those moments, right? And so that's one thing. And another great source of generating new members is old students, right?
Cool.
You guys that quit, we call it quitting for the fumes, and that's car fumes and perfect cars and girls. You get 15, 16, 17, you're going to drift off in that direction. And then now I'm 22, maybe I left as a brown belt, and maybe things aren't working out for me. I'm working, mowing lawns or something, right? We've hired a lot of people that way, right? That we've looked at our inactive list and said, okay, and like I said, it's a numbers thing. You're not going to, not everybody that you call is going to be a fit, but if you don't pick up the phone, you're right.
Yeah.
So that's
so you would actually go through your inactive and physically call those people?
Absolutely. We haven't done it for a long time because we're not in the same expansion mode. We've got other systems in place. But there was a time when we were really rapidly growing, and we had more schools than we had instructors, and we utilized. That's why we, necessity is the mother of invention. And that's why we came up with that, and it worked really well for us. And then the other thing is that most guys don't really. I'm sorry about that, guys. Don't really have a like a leadership program in place, and you constantly got to be grooming those young teens because sometime they're going to be old enough to do this, right? And so that's the hire right. So, and by the way, if you ever see if you don't have a big selection, sometimes you're forced to hire somebody that wasn't really who you were looking for, but they're the best of 3 or 4 choices, and that's really a mistake. There's a great quote: "I'd rather have a crisis than a sloppy situation," which means it's better to be light staffed than to hire the guy that doesn't fit on the team. And you just got to keep looking until you get the right guy, right?
Look, absolute gold there. And if you guys don't understand that, don't just hire out of just desperation and just try and make something fit. You've got to really be clear and have clarity over where you want to go and what you want to do. So we're talking about the hiring and developing. What else do we have in this sort of journey for building stuff?
Well, so let's just say other things. If you're going to hire from the outside, that's hard. But if you're going to do it, you got to make sure they drink your Kool-Aid. They got to buy into your system as a martial artist. Otherwise, it never works if you're just a mercenary. Then the next part is train them right. Right now, that seems obvious. What does that mean exactly? That seems basically what that means is most guys don't spend the time training their people, so they establish bad habits. Okay, so you get somebody coming to your school, the clearer you can be, because I would like to think that most people are going to hire. That the people they hire want to do well. They want to do well. You're not going to hire some guy. And plus, in our business, you had 3 years to interview them. You can know what kind of a person they are. You know what I'm saying? And so they want to do well. But if you don't bring them in and let them know clearly what their expectations are, all right? And then, not just that, that's the easy part, but then help them establish the right habits. Because a guy wants to do well, but if you don't teach him how to answer the phone correctly and you don't drill on it first, what happens, he starts answering it his own way, and pretty soon he's deviated from the norm, and then you have to go, wait a minute, and you have to reprogram a bad habit, right? So train them right is out of the gate, be really specific and clear as to what you want to do based on their job description. And then the third step, treat them right, and that is that, hey man, there's some guys you could treat perfectly, and they could still leave you in the lurch, right? And there's some guys you could treat like crap that will be with you forever, right? But the majority of the people, if you treat them right and you don't give them a reason to leave, you know what I'm saying? And you go to, so what we really try to do is we try to have an environment where guys really like coming to work, and so what all the things that goes into that. And I always ask myself, how would I want my boss to respond and react with me, and I want to be that guy with my team, right? Cool. And go to battle for them, and whatever you got to do to, if they're the right person, to keep them motivated and on track.
Now we had a good conversation earlier today about physical training, but also I guess development training, the area of their focus. So what are your expectations with your guys with, let's say, the physical aspects of their training? Because I know that when you become a martial arts instructor, you think you're going to train more.
But that's not the case.
No, not even close.
Yeah, well, so we require all our guys to train as a team once a week at least. Most of the guys will get in a second training session with myself or another team member every week. But we find that less required is better than more required that you don't do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then, but the best staff training is staff training.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. Because that bond that you get when you're out there sweating with your guys, that transfers over. So all of us, man, we all love martial arts. There's times we don't feel like training. Who cares? It doesn't friggin' matter if you don't feel like doing it. You do it anyway. You're always glad you did. When you're done, you always go, man, that was good. And so we try to keep that. Then we try to really keep a martial arts at the core of our business. So martial arts first, teaching second, business third. That's kind of the way I look at things.
Great.
And that just seems to help overall in that.
So I was just going to interject on the second part of that one and just say, look, so you had the physical aspects, then what about the systematic training behind the scenes of the business and the job roles? Like, do you role play?
Absolutely. Depends on the job description, but everybody role plays on general stuff. Obviously, how to answer the phone, how to give a tour, how to give a first lesson, and how to, if you're going to work a booth or something, because everybody's going to do that at some point, what the process is of that, right? And what the desired outcome is. And then it's more specific, like we have a path for instructors. It's very detailed, very specific, where we have different levels and different hoops they have to jump through and complete with written test, oral test, physical test, problem solving along the way for them to earn, complete with like CPR certification, background checks. If you're not doing background checks, even if you friggin' got to do it. You're really liable. Like if I've got kids, you got kids. You don't want them going somewhere where there wasn't a background check.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's basic stuff that every other business on the planet has known, but somehow we've been a little slow, and we got a lot of kids. We can't be. We got to do that. Yeah. And you guys should be CPR certified, first aid certified, and all those steps for us to become like a certified instructor. Then if they're on the program director module, it's the same thing. We spent a lot of time, on developing, in our student service module, so to speak, for enrollment.
Fantastic. Some absolute dynamite gems there. So again, guys, just with the training aspect, successful, and it seems to be a trait amongst successful business owners that they get their staff to train physically. They don't neglect that. They can't afford not to train really, and then consistent training in their job role, whether they're front of house and counter, whether they're answering the phone, program director or instructor. You can't afford not to just kind of be ad hoc. You have to have structured quality training to help them be a world-class team.
So I think just to finish on, we'll touch on the subject that we don't really like to do, but as a business owner, when you have staff, sometimes you have to do it, which is firing people. At some point, we've got a great quote: "What you tolerate, you get."
Yes, absolutely.
And unfortunately, sometimes staff members can be like, get cancer in a business. So it's important that, as business owners, we cut that cancer out nice and quickly, but there's got to be a wrong and a right way of doing it as well. So Dave, in your experience, obviously you would have had to let some people go before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a nice way to do this? Or
Well, so first and foremost, what you tolerate, what you get has kind of been a mantra. My business partner went to a seminar about a month ago, and that was the takeaway. That's good. But well, it's never any fun. So there's a couple things. So we have with the 3 R's. The 3 R's are retrain, relocate, replace. Okay? So anytime someone's goofing up, you're not doing a good job, I always assume responsibility first. Hey Phil, I'm sorry I didn't explain to you very good that 4 o'clock means be here at 4 o'clock. It doesn't mean be here at 4:15. My bad for not being clear about that. Retrain.
Yeah.
Guess what? Relocate. Guess what, Phil? Clearly 4 o'clock is not going to work. We're going to start you at 5 o'clock. Well, can you be there by the right? And then that doesn't work. Replace. Get somebody else.
Yeah.
And which is easy to say. That what you guys have seen that people tell you this, and I've seen it, and I've been there where you have no one else to replace. So you're reliant upon this person that's mediocre because you don't have your bench isn't full.
Yeah.
Right. But so when it does come to that time, obviously documentation is everything. It's one of those things that I go, come on, I don't want to have to write up the talk that we have, but you got to do it, right? So if I have to do some kind of a reprimand with you, after we have this, we're really clear about the process, and then depending on the level of reprimand, if it happens a couple times, we're going to actually write it out. And if it gets to be where it's like a warning, like job, then you're going to sign that thing. You don't have to have them, at least in where we are. You don't have to have them. I don't have to have them sign them every time I talk to them, but I got to document every time. So there's a real clear trail. And then my experience has been, and it's never easy, but if you can have this talk and minimize the emotion as much as possible, and not have it be you know what I'm saying? It's like it's I guess let them down as easy as you possibly can, but still being honest. And it's a fine line. It's never fun. But you can make it worse. It's never easy. But if you do it wrong, it can be really friggin' rough.
Some absolute gems again, some wise wisdom there. So you obviously heard about building your bench strength and what you need to do, but also at the back end, just being clear. And those 3 hours, I thought they were great. I've got them down ready to go for our business, which is great. So again, appreciate your time, David. It's fantastic.
Excellent, team. Well, that's a wrap for this particular podcast. Again, this is podcast number 2 with Kyoshi Dave Kovar. We have got another 2 coming up, and in particular, a pretty cool subject matter. If I was to start again, or if I had my time again, what would I do differently? I mean, we don't want to take away from what we've done, because we are who we are because of what we've been through. But I think we can kick off next podcast with for anyone out there thinking of starting a school, from someone who's had 37 years experience, what would they do today to start that business? So stay tuned, guys, and we'll be back with you very shortly. Ciao.
Innovating the martial arts industry.